Today I wanted to talk about some more seeds. So these are all of the seeds that I'm going to be sowing indoors in March. This is kind of the last big group of seeds that I'm going to be starting inside. I usually do start some fall crops inside in the middle of summer, but as far as like spring seeds inside, this is what I'm starting. I've got a lot of flowers, a bunch of herbs, and then a couple veggies for the garden too. So I thought I would just share with you what I am growing. A lot of fun things here. I'm gonna start with the flowers. So I'm doing a really tropical look in the garden this year, and I wanted to do some of this portulaca, just to get like a little bit of those bright colors. It's a really heat and drought resistant plant. So I have some hanging baskets, some different hanging planters, and I thought that this would be perfect. This is Mayday, by the way. She's gonna be hanging out. Yeah, I thought this would be perfect to add into things like that. Just a nice annual flower that really blooms a lot and really pretty kind of tropical colors right in line with what I want to do this year. This is the Moss Rose double flowered mix. So I'm going to get some of those going. They are just about, let's see, when did they say to sow them? They don't have it on here, but I'm going to be sowing all of these seeds right at about 6 weeks until my last frost, right in the beginning of March, because my technical last frost date is the mid-April. Usually by the beginning of April, there's no frost in sight. So this just gives me a nice time frame where the plants won't get too large, and hopefully I won't have to up pot them at all. A lot of these have like a 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date time period, but I'm just starting them a little bit on the later side. The next flower that I'm going to do is anise hyssop. I have seen so many things about how this is just wonderful for the pollinators, and I'm doing some pollinator growing here at the home garden, and then I do also have a community garden plot where I'm putting a lot of pollinator plants in, and this is actually a perennial, which is kind of nice, zones 4 through 8. So once I get it started, I'll have it forever. So I'm gonna get a little bit of this going, maybe just a couple flowers. Then I'm going to start some rhubarb. So really excited about this. This is just a really nice rhubarb variety, Glaskins Perpetual. So a nice long harvest for this one. And I'm really excited to try to grow this in a container. This year, I'm really interested in growing a lot of perennials in containers and just kind of experimenting with how that goes. I'm even gonna try a couple little like fig trees and things like that. So really excited to see how that all goes. And as part of that experiment, I want to grow some rhubarb. I really like rhubarb pie. I always made it as a kid, and so I'm excited to hopefully be able to make some of that again. The first year with rhubarb, it's a perennial. You can't harvest a ton, but I think with this variety, I can harvest maybe just a little bit. Then I've got some flowering vines. So the rhubarb, I guess, wasn't really a flower, but it kind of falls into that decorative and as well as a vegetable. So flowering vines, I got 3 flowering vines that I'm gonna be doing. Well, one is just a vine. So this is a loofah gourd. These are so fun. Those, loofahs that you use in the shower, they are a gourd. They do not come from the sea, which is always so amazing and so surprising to people. But I want to get some loofahs going. This one is 3 to 4 weeks before your last frost. I think that they really grow quickly once they get started. So I may wait till like mid-March to get this started, just so I don't end up with like really huge loofahs inside, but I'm excited to get this growing. And then I'm going to do some moonflowers, another one that's like 3 to 4 weeks before your last frost. Moonflowers are so much fun. They're so magical. If you've never seen them before, they bloom at night and they have like huge white blooms, just gorgeous and super fun. I want to grow these up one of my little like maple tree areas. So I'm very excited about that. And this is just the white moonflower classic. It says morning glory. I think it's moonflowers are in the morning glory family. But very, very excited to get these ones going. And then my last vine that I'm starting right now is the Canary Creeper. This has like a really pretty, delicate little yellow flower, and it grows a vine up to about 8 feet. So I think this would be really pretty to put in a container in on my patio. I have like a little patio area, and I thought it'd be pretty to kind of just have like spilling and growing over the edges. So that'll be really nice. Another one that's 2 to 4 weeks before your last frost. So for me, mid-March will be perfect for all of those vines. That will be great. Then a couple of my veggies, potatoes. When I saw these potato seeds, I just knew I had to try them. I just thought it would be so interesting to see. Obviously, usually when you grow potatoes, you get seed potatoes and you grow, you grow from the actual potato, but these are seeds for potatoes. You start them inside and then you plant them out. So 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost. So that's just right about March for me. And yeah, I'm really interested. They grow a really yummy potato, kind of creamy and really nice harvest. So excited to see how those go. Then I'm also going to start some ground cherries. So I have seen so many things about ground cherries for years. They just always looked so interesting to me. They're supposed to be kind of like fruity. You can put them in salsa. It says pies, jams. There's a recipe inside the packet. I also have to check that out. But yeah, wildly delicious is what it says on the seed packet, and everyone raves about them. So I got the pineapple ground cherry. Oh, by the way, this is the Clancy potato. But the pineapple ground cherry, there's only really a couple varieties that I've seen, but pineapple sounded really good. So I think that's what I will go with. And I'm excited to get those started. Then I'm going to do a bunch of herbs. Usually I start my herbs a bit earlier, but after looking at the seed packets on these and trying to be mindful of not getting too huge of plants inside, I think all of these will be just right for me to start in March. So I'm going to do a bunch of chamomile. I have so many packets. German chamomile is one of my favorite chamomiles. It's just a really nice classic chamomile, and I've always had good luck with German chamomile. So I get mine both from Botanical Interest and at my gardener. And I'm gonna grow a bunch of this. I wanna just sprinkle chamomile in and out around the garden. It has these really pretty little like daisy looking flowers. So I think it'll just add a little whimsy to the garden. And I'm not really a big one for making chamomile tea, although I should. I really should try to do it. And every year I'm like, I'm gonna save those chamomile flowers and do it. And then I don't, I just enjoy the flowers. But maybe this year will be the year, hopefully. Then I got some catnip for the kitties. I'm gonna do just a tiny little pot of this. I don't want a bunch of cats coming to my garden, and I've been warned that if you grow catnip, like cats will find you. So this will be for my indoor kitties, but I think they'll really like the catnip, and I need to get that started. I'm also going to grow some thyme, just French thyme, a really nice culinary thyme. I do really like to use thyme in cooking, so this will be a really good one. I think it just kind of looks like a classic thyme. I got this herb, zatar, which is supposed to, I think that's how you say it, I'm not sure, but this is supposed to be kind of like an oregano style herb that have a really intense flavor and be really, really delicious. So I am going to try some of this. I have a few window box planters that I do herbs in, and so that's where I'm going to be putting most of these herbs. I'm also going to grow sage. This is just sage, classic sage. And I really want to grow my sage for Thanksgiving dinner. I am in the United States. We have Thanksgiving, and every year I do a maple bacon sage butter turkey. And every year I'm like, I need to grow the sage for my sage butter. And so this year I am doing it. I'm going to get this started. These herbs all say 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost. So early March will be perfect. It's not quite 6 weeks. Well, technically it's 6 weeks, but probably not really quite 6 weeks, but we'll be totally fine and be super perfect. And then I'm going to do some cilantro. And this one you can just like direct sow, and I probably will direct sow some of it at, I would say like the end of March, mid-March, just kind of looking at the calendar, but I may, or the weather, I should say, I'm looking at the extended forecast and the weather, but I may also do some inside too, just to get a little bit of this going. So this is a large leaf cilantro, and that's definitely something that I find I have a hard time with cilantro, and I'm really hoping that if I get the large leaf, it'll grow bigger leaves, because I usually end up with really small leaves. And yeah, I'm really hoping that that large leaf will give me kind of like a bigger, fuller leaf that I can really use in some recipes easily. I'm going to do a couple kinds of basil. So I have this really pretty, it's called Everleaf Emerald Towers, and it's one that's supposed to be a really just like good production plant. So a really tall, tower shaped plant, and one that doesn't go to flower super quickly. It does get warm here in Virginia. We have very hot, humid summers, and so basil tends to flower pretty quickly for me, and so I'm just always experimenting with different varieties, and I'm interested to see if this one will take a little while before it goes to flower. It's also supposed to be really densely packed and just like a really full plant. And because I grow in a lot of containers, you know, the plants don't always have the hugest space for their root system. So if I get a variety that is like a really dense variety, it usually does better. I usually just get a bigger harvest. I also noticed that it said full sun to part shade. So I'm gonna try that this year too, growing some in some part shade and just kind of seeing how that happens, because I've never grown basil in part shade, and I'm really intrigued by that. Then I'm going to do a licorice basil. I always like to try the different kind of like flavors of basil, like lemon basil and cinnamon basil. And so I'm gonna do licorice basil this year. I actually haven't taken a look at what this looks like, because this was like a thank you packet that I got from MI Gardener. So I need to check out what this one looks like, but it has gone straight into the grow list, and I'm excited to see what happens. And then I'm gonna do a border of this Greek dwarf basil. It's a really small basil, it has really tiny little leaves, and it's just kind of short. And I wanna just have like a little hedge in the front of my tomato bed of just these little tiny basil plants. I just think it'll be really kind of like cute and aesthetic. And I'm trying to be more mindful about the aesthetics of my garden beds this year, and so I think that'll be fun, just basically to grow for the looks. But I did harvest it last year. I grew it last year. I really liked it, harvested it, and used it for things. It's a smaller leaf, so you know, kind of pick and choose where you want to use it. But as far as like just throwing in a tomato sauce or something like that, it's perfect for that. And then the last herb I want to talk about today is, I got two because I like this one so much. Tetra dill. I love dill. The smell of fresh dill is one of my absolute favorite scents. And over the years, I've tried different dills. I've had different successes. And kind of like what I was saying with the basil, this is a really compact, full, bushy dill. And growing it in a container, it does super well. You get a really full plant. I also grew it in a raised bed, and same thing, just a really fluffy, full plant, really delicious. It is slower to bolt, they say, and I found that it really did not flower till midsummer. I want to do some successions of this. I have a bed where I'm growing a bunch of cucumbers, and I'm making like a pickle bed. And so I want to do a bunch of cucumbers and then grow a bunch of this tetra dill. And I want to get some of it started inside so that I can do a bit of the succession. So I'll probably throw in a couple other kinds of dill too as the season goes on. But I think it'd be nice to start with some plants, have them ready to go into the ground, and then I can just kind of succession plant and always have, hopefully, a really nice dill harvest, because dill does have a lifespan, and after a certain point, it will just die and be done. So you do want to succession plant it if you're going to want to have it all season long. So anyways, those are my March seeds. I'm kind of excited to be done with seed starting. You know, once I get these all planted, it'll be all done for the spring, but then it's also kind of sad too, because I do love seed starting. There's something really fun about it and all the seedlings. I should mention before I go that I'm in zone 7A in the United States. And my last frost date's mid-April, like I said, usually early April. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having lots of fun with your seedlings. Maybe try out some of these varieties. I'll put some links in the description, and actually for MI Gardener, I have a code too, so check that out. And Pinetree Seeds, I have a code for them too if you want a discount on any of those seeds. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you in the next one, and I'm sure Mayday will too. Bye-bye.